New York Giants fans, as you get ready for another game of trying to play out this string, we see that there's going to be a lot of changes in these lineups, a lot of changes on the people and the personnel that you see on the field. And I just have one thing to tell you. This is what the money is for. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons. New York Giants on SI. That's where you get all of your New York Giants news and information from. Make sure you're going over there, seeing everything that's going on there. Make sure that you're hitting the subscribe button over here at the New York Giants on SI YouTube page. You know what? I know what it is. The Giants are not having the greatest of seasons, so a lot of you maybe not as locked in as you would normally be, but the offseason is coming. And for as bad as this season has been for the Giants, once the offseason hits, you are going to start getting optimistic. I personally have a lot of things coming that you're going to want to know about. You're going to hear about it first here on A Giant Issue. And so if you want to be about that, definitely hit that subscribe button so you never miss anything. Never miss any of the access that Paul Dottino gives you on the Big Blue Breakdown. You got to support him as well. And you'll do all of that for free just by hitting that subscribe button and then watching, right? Watching, listening. If you are listening on any DSP, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, thank you. Continue to listen. Continue to hit that download button. We really do appreciate it. I was thinking about this when I started looking at all of the injuries, and I'm putting air quotes for the people who are listening and not watching, for all of the injuries that we see happening with this Giants team. And I just started laughing. I was just like, man, it's amazing the amount of injuries that you all of a sudden have once a team is no longer like playoff viable. It's amazing to me the type of injuries that you have once you no longer have winning in the forefront. Some people would argue that last year, the Giants made a mistake by trying to win down the stretch. I'm not one of them. You guys know I have said for the longest that I believe in winning. I don't think you ever put yourself in a situation where you're out there trying to lose. But again, I don't coach in the NFL, and I'm not a GM or a president. I can't imagine any owner is okay with just losing, because I'm pretty sure that messes with the bottom line, But if I'm looking at what has happened, and I'm saying, well, last year you did not tank, right? You won a few games and you ended up with a pick that you felt or you didn't feel comfortable with selecting a quarterback, whether we agree or not, right? Whether we agree or not, there were quarterbacks to be had, and the New York Giants felt that where they were, it wasn't worth, or they couldn't make a move on the quarterbacks that they wanted, right? And so they can't make a move on the quarterbacks that they wanted. They end up taking a wide receiver. Cool. I don't have any problem with that. Right. So maybe this year they said, hey, listen, last year we tried to win. We tried to let our fan base know that we were going to win at all costs. We won some games, but it ultimately hurt us in our draft positioning. We can't afford to do that this year. So what could we do where we could just go out there and try to win, but put ourselves in the best position to lose? And everybody knows what you have to do if you're trying to win, but you want to put yourself in the best position to lose, but you want the perception that you're trying to win, right? And that is to sit players. But you just can't sit players. You just can't like have players be out and not and go, well, we're just sitting them, right? There has to be some type of legitimate reasoning for sitting the player. You can't just say, well, we're sitting people because we're trying to lose, right? That wouldn't work. So what they did is they just started putting people on the injury report and putting them out. I'm going to read for you the injury report right now, as it stands right now at 12:02 on Saturday, 12/7, before the 12/8 game. This is what the injury report looks like. Deontay Banks, cornerback, rib injury, game status out. Evan Neal, tackle, hip injury, game status questionable. Raheem Nunez-Roches, D-line, neck and shoulder injury, game status out. Bobby Okereke, inside linebacker, injury back, game status out. DJ Davidson, D-line, shoulder injury, game status doubtful. That's 2 D linemen already, interior D linemen already. Tommy DeVito, QB right forearm, nothing. Bryce Ford Wheaton, wide receiver Achilles, nothing. Deontay Johnson, inside linebacker, ankle, questionable. Dane Belton, safety, hip, nothing. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, groin, questionable. Tyler Newbin, safety, knee, nothing. Jordan Riley, D lineman, knee, questionable. That's 4 D linemen, 3 D linemen, interior D linemen. Jermaine Illuminor, offensive lineman, quad, doubtful. Chris Hubbard, tackle, knee, questionable. Andrew Phillips, cornerback, shoulder, questionable. Cordero Flott, cornerback, quad and knee, questionable. Ladies and gentlemen, if this was a game that mattered, if this was a game that people thought we needed to win in order to continue to move in the direction we wanted to move, do you think that this many people would be missing? Like, do you think that you would have all of these guys out if the team was in a position to win? Just think about it defensively. You've got the starting corner, you've got the starting nickelback. Well, you got the starting corner that's out. You've got the starting nickelback that is questionable. You've got the other starting corner or that starting corner's backup that's questionable. You have both 2 of your 3 safeties that are in your rotation on the injury report. You've got your starting Mike linebacker out. You've got one of your backups questionable. You have your starting defensive lineman, nose/3 technique, out. You've got his backup, doubtful. You've got his backup or the backup for the backup, questionable. You've got all 3 tackles, all 3 offensive tackles that are either questionable or doubtful. They're either questionable or doubtful. You've got your number 1 wide receiver who is questionable. Ladies and gentlemen, they are starting Drew Lock. And I'm here to tell you, Drew Lock, this is what the money's for. This is what you get paid for. This is what everybody agrees. This is what everybody agrees is the reason. Right? This is everyone, not everyone as far as Giants fans, but everyone as far as football understands that when you have to roll a guy out here to play where the defense is going to be down multiple starters, where the other starters, if they do play, are not going to be at full strength. So you're likely going to be in a shootout, right? Because your defense is going to give up points. You'll likely be in a shootout. And then you're asking your backup quarterback to go out there and throw the ball all around without his top receiver and without possibly, most likely one, but possibly both of the starting tackles, when all three of them will have had issues with pass protection anyway. This is what the money's for. You are paid $6 million to go out here and take these hits, to go out there and function as best you can under these constraints. That's what it is. You are asked to go out here and make it happen. Make us look competent in these situations. And if you're a backup quarterback, and you can make a team look competent when all of these things are going on around them, if you can make them look like they're not like really, really terribly bad at their job, then you can keep a job as a backup quarterback for a long, long time. This is the Tyrod Taylor effect. People wonder why Tyrod Taylor keeps a job. It's because when he comes in, your team doesn't look like abject failures. Remember, Tyrod Taylor took over, and when he took over, he had what to work with? An offensive line full of backups and dudes off the street. No starters. Not one of them was out there when Tyrod Taylor took over the first time. It wasn't until he came back after they benched Tommy DeVito later in the game that you saw he was able to get like some of the offensive linemen back. But in that time when he was out there, he was making things happen. And the reason he was making things happen is very simple. It's because he's good enough to keep you relevant when the relevance is not there. So now, Drew Lock, this is why you get paid the money. So don't feel bad for Drew Lock, right? I don't want anyone to come out and feel bad for Drew Lock. If you come out and you feel bad for Drew Lock, then you've clearly missed the boat, right? You've clearly missed the boat if you feel bad for Drew Lock, because this is what Drew Lock's job is now. It's not to compete to be a starter. It's not to convince anyone that he can be the lead man for a team. It's to convince the NFL and all 32 teams that, hey, if you need a quarterback to come in and keep it on the rails, that's what I'm here for. And you should pay me handsomely for that. I should get paid really well to do that. And the reason I should get paid really well to do that is because it's not easy. It's not easy to look good. It's not easy to feel good when everything around you is burning. When everything around you when everything is falling down, can you be calm? Can you find a support beam that's not going to fall on your head? When everything is burning around you, can you find a place to stay cool? Can you find a place to not get scorched by the flames? And if the answer is yes, then you've got a life. You've got a long life in the NFL as a backup quarterback. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about it before. This is what tanking looks like. You are not going to convince me that all of these people that are on this injury report are really injured to the point where they cannot play. Yes, I do believe there's some boo-boos. Yeah, I do believe there's some people hurting. But if this was a playoff run, ladies and gentlemen, No, no, no. They would be out there. But this isn't a playoff. This isn't a playoff push. This is a number one overall pick push. And when you're trying to have a number one overall pick push, this is what you have to do. Hey, it's the best of both worlds. You can bottom out without having to have an O in 17 season. Right? That was the fear. Right? There's no fear of an 0-17 season. So you can bottom out. You can bottom out as a New York Giants fan, and you never have to worry about whether or not you had to go down in history, right? Like some of the teams that bottomed out, they go down in history. They go down in history as colossal failures. There's a ton of teams that have only won 2 games. There's a lot of teams that have only won 2 to 3 games in the world. So for them to be in a situation, where they can lose but not have to worry about historically losing, that's not a bad place to be. It doesn't feel good, right? It's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel good when they go into the offseason with only 2 or 3 wins. It's not going to feel good. But you know what you're going to do when you say 2 to 3 wins? You're going to go, yeah, but they could have, right? Because once the season's over, we'll go back to being optimistic again. Well, you know, this team was not very far away from being an 8 to 9 win team. And guess what? That's the truth. It'll be the truth. This team is not that far away from being an 8 to 9 win team. Certain things did not happen. Certain things did not happen for them to be able to reach that level. Right? Certain things did not happen for them to be able to reach that level. And because they weren't able to reach that level, that's what happens. Right? And so you can have a bad day, a bad year. You can have a down year, and then you can use the fruits of that down year to bud and grow. And that's why you see the flip, right? That's why you see teams flip and go from being a team that's not that great or bad to good in a year. It's because they were never that bad. That's the difference. In those situations where you see the team go from bad to good, you have to recognize that they were never that bad. And once you recognize that they were never that bad, then you understand, oh, okay, well, they were never that bad, so it shouldn't be difficult for them to turn it around. There's no magical elixir. You want to know, and no one talks about this, but you want to know why 2021, right? Sorry, not 2021, but 2022 was such a magical year. It's because they weren't that bad in 2021. They weren't. It wasn't bottom out awful in 2021. It wasn't that bad in 2020. They just didn't make enough plays when it mattered most. It was field goals instead of touchdowns that led to the demise of that team during the Joe Judge era. You don't want to admit it. You don't want to admit it, because then that means you have to admit that the people that were in place didn't do the worst job in the world. See, the thing that people are surviving off of is blaming previous regimes for being so bad that they left nothing for the recent regime. That's simply just not true. This Giants team was a competitive team in 2021. They were a competitive team in 2020. They just didn't win enough games. That's it. They just did not win enough games. They lost games because they were too busy kicking field goals, and the inconsistency of their quarterback, the injuries that were to the running back, the lack of receiving depth caught up with them. And then in 2022, the quarterback, for the most part, stayed healthy and definitely played his best football of his career. The running back stayed healthy for the most part and didn't play his best football, but played some of his best football. The defense that was bend but don't break, but bent a little bit, were able to take advantage of some schematic things that allowed them to have success. And voila, that's what it is. You get a 2022. But people should have pumped the brakes on that 2022 season and said, hey, they're probably closer to 2021, 2020 than they are to 2022. So if this is what they bring back, expect a relapse or a recession to the mean. And that's what happened in 2023. And then they doubled down on it again. Only this time, they got rid of some really key pieces, some leaders, some linchpins, and they slowly diluted their own product. And so now we're in this situation. But make no mistake about it, this is what the money's for. When you look at Drew Lock, don't feel bad. When you look at what they're doing, don't say, hey, we're a laughing stock. This is on purpose. You cannot hit rock bottom without losing, and sometimes losing where it looks bad. Sorry. You guys want the top pick, don't you? If you don't want the top pick, then just keep complaining about how they're playing. If you want the top pick, then what you should be saying is, hey, cool, they're doing exactly what we need them to do. Keep losing. We'll take this first pick. We'll go out there and get our guy. Hopefully that guy is Shedeur Sanders. But we'll go out there and get our guy. And we'll move on. That's what it should be. And if it's not that, then all you're doing is causing yourself more heartbreak and consternation than necessary. Go out there tomorrow, enjoy the football game, and do this. Do this, especially with so many players not playing. I want you to find a player or a few players that you look at and you go, man, I can't wait to see what he does in 2025. Don't look at it from an overall results standpoint, because there's a better than likely chance the Giants are going to lose this game. They're missing everybody. They're missing everybody. They're playing one of the best backs in the league. They haven't been able to stop water from running all year. Right? So now you have to find and pinpoint the small people. If there are going to be defensive backs out, who's a defensive back that steps up to the point where you go, ooh, I'd like to see him with a fully loaded defense. We know that the Mike linebacker's out. Who's going to step in? And can, after that game, do we go, ooh, I could see him being an answer as a linebacker for us? We know at least one tackle is likely to be out. If it's multiple, are we going to get a chance to go, ooh, they played well? Maybe with more development, ... If Malik Neighbors is out, do we get an opportunity to see Jalen Hyatt? Do we get an opportunity to see Darius Slayton thrust into a role where they have to show what they can do again? And you go, oh, you know what? Maybe we should re-sign that Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee who also is one of our leading receivers in the history of our franchise. Oh, maybe we should get that that day 2 draft pick that has all of this speed. Maybe we should get him involved in the game more. I want you to look at the game differently. I want you to be able to explore it on a person by person basis to see if you can find the love, you can find the care within the game that helps you better appreciate what's going on. That is what my hope is for you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I have. Make sure that you go to New York Giants on SI for all of your New York Giants news and information. It's going to be a great offseason, by the way. This season is flying by, but it's going to be a fantastic offseason. Oh my goodness. Also, make sure you come to the New York Giants on SI YouTube page. Hit the YouTube channel, excuse me. Hit the subscribe button. We're still trying to get to 2,000. And trust me, don't wait until the summer to get us to 2,000 or wait until the offseason to get us to 2,000 when we really turn this thing up, looking at some of the stuff that we have coming down the pipe. Do it right now. Do it. Do it. Do it. Right? Like, get out there, be active, come along with us early on. Don't wait. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.